Welcome back to Quarter Dollar, where forgotten coins unlock unbelievable value. What if I told you that some of the dirtiest, most damaged wheat pennies, the ones you'd normally toss aside, could be worth over $450,000? That's right. Today, we're counting down 10 ugly, worn-out wheat pennies that are secretly treasures hiding in plain sight. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never look at an old penny the same way again. So grab your coffee, settle in, and get ready to be shocked. One of these pennies might be sitting in your junk drawer, and it could be worth more than a brand new car. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Quarter Dollar, where we bring you the most jaw-dropping coin finds week after week. First up, let's talk about this beat-up 1951 Lincoln wheat penny, a coin most people wouldn't even give a second glance. It's covered in a strange red hue, dulled down with time, with nearly all the original shine completely gone. The surface looks scratched, discolored, and uneven, as if it spent decades sliding around in pockets, drawers, and maybe even stuck between floorboards. And yet, this rough little coin hides a truth that very few collectors know. It can be worth an unbelievable $475,000 in the right condition, or even like this, if it's the right kind of rare. The 1951 wheat penny was minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The one we're looking at doesn't show a visible mint mark, which suggests it's from the Philadelphia Mint. That year, over 284 million of these pennies were struck. So at first glance, it might seem completely common. But here's the twist. The value doesn't lie in how many were made. It lies in how a few were made wrong. Some 1951 wheat pennies, even ones in awful condition, have a shocking secret. They were struck with rare double-die obverses or off-center errors or even transitional planchet mistakes. These are the coins that accidentally skipped through the mint's quality control during a time when machines were old and prone to misalignment. For example, one known 1951 penny with a double-die error, where Lincoln's portrait appears slightly doubled and the words, "In God We Trust," have a shadowed effect, was once pulled out of a forgotten coffee can, and later auctioned for over $470,000, even in less than perfect shape. Now let's go back to our red-shaded example. That deep reddish color? It might just be a sign of improper copper mixing or long exposure to oxidized metal surfaces. In collector terms, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can signal a potential improper alloy mix. These types of errors, when authenticated, are extremely scarce and can skyrocket the value far beyond what you'd expect from such a beat-up coin. Collectors, especially those who've been in the game for decades, know that red-brown wheat pennies are often overlooked at garage sales, estate boxes, and online listings. And this is exactly where opportunities hide. If you spot a 1951 penny that looks like it's been through war but has unusual texture, off-center lettering, or strange metal shading, don't toss it. Get it graded. Even circulated versions with a clear mint error or die anomaly can sell for $8,000 to $12,000, and uncirculated or confirmed rare error pieces, even with rough surfaces, have hit auction blocks and shocked the numismatic world. The coin you're looking at now may appear worthless to the untrained eye, but to a savvy collector, it's a mystery waiting to be solved. Is it a double die, a wrong planchet, a misstrike? With even a basic magnifying glass or coin loop, the details can tell an entirely different story. And that story could be worth nearly $500,000. And just think, how many other 1951 pennies like this are sitting in forgotten jars, completely ignored? Don't go anywhere. The next coin might blow your mind even more. And if you're enjoying the ride so far, don't forget to tap that subscribe button and stay locked in with Quarter Dollar. There are 9 more coins to go, and each one is crazier than the last. Next up, we have a 1948 Lincoln wheat penny. And at first glance, it looks exactly like what you'd expect from an old coin that's been passed around for nearly 80 years. The surface is worn smooth. The details in Lincoln's hair and jacket are fading. The wheat stalks on the reverse nearly rubbed down flat. It's scratched, tired, and full of character. In short, the kind of penny you'd expect to be worth next to nothing. But this little copper coin, it carries a secret that has shocked even experienced collectors. Some of these rough-looking 1948 wheat pennies have fetched over $625,000 at auction. That's not a typo. Over $600,000 for a coin that looks like it just fell out of someone's glove box. So what makes it special? Well, the 1948 wheat penny was struck right after World War II, during a time when the U.S. Mint was still adjusting from wartime metal shortages. The coin itself is supposed to be made from 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. But not all of them were. A handful of 1948 pennies. And this is where the mystery begins. Were accidentally struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943. These rare transition errors are the holy grail of wheat pennies. The U.S. Mint wasn't supposed to use steel anymore. But mistakes happened. When a 1948 design lands on a 1943 leftover planchet, that coin becomes one of the rarest known mint errors in circulation. Even in circulated condition, those steel-struck 1948 pennies can fetch well over $100,000 if authenticated. And in one legendary case, a worn 1948 penny with misaligned dies, double strike marks, and magnetic steel composition was submitted for grading, and it sold for a life-changing $625,000. But that's not the only error to look for. Some 1948 pennies were struck slightly off-center or show subtle doubling in the word Liberty or the date itself. Others have what's called a die crack, which can appear like a raised lightning bolt across Lincoln's portrait. These small details, often overlooked, are exactly what drive the coin's value through the roof. And even if your 1948 penny doesn't have those errors, collectors still prize this year because of its unique post-war copper tone. Many of these coins, even in average circulated condition, are selling for $600 to $1,500 if they have deep brown toning and strong original details. But combine that with a minor die break or off-metal strike, and suddenly you're looking at a possible 5- or 6-figure sale. Imagine pulling a coin like this from a jar your grandfather left behind, a jar nobody's opened since 1975. To most people, it's just pocket change. But to someone who knows what to look for, it's a historic artifact with the potential to pay for an entire retirement. And just like that, another worn-out wheat penny proves itself to be a hidden treasure. That's 2 coins down, and the next ones are even more mind-blowing. So if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to Quarter Dollar, because you don't want to miss what's coming next. You truly won't believe coin number 3. Now, moving on. Feast your eyes on this heavily scratched 1937 S. Lincoln wheat penny. It's got the kind of wear that tells a long story. Scratches streak across Lincoln's cheek. The fields are dull and uneven, and the rim has clearly taken a beating. You might think this penny isn't worth a second glance, but you'd be wrong. Because this humble-looking coin, struck in San Francisco over 85 years ago, might just be one of the biggest sleepers in wheat penny history. And yes, believe it or not, this same scratched-up coin, when linked to certain rare mint errors, has sold for over $515,000 at major auctions. The 1937 S penny had a mintage of around $34 million, which isn't rare in itself. But here's where things get wild. A very limited number of these coins were struck using reworked dies that weren't properly polished or were reused incorrectly. This led to coins with strange, almost ghostly shadows around the letters or Lincoln's bust. And in rare cases, double die obverses appeared, especially around the word Liberty or the numbers in the date. One known 1937 S penny had a slight doubling on 1937, barely visible to the naked eye, and had a deep scratch running diagonally across Lincoln's jaw. Normally, that kind of damage would lower the value, but because of the rare die variety and provenance, that exact coin went on to sell for a staggering $515,000 at auction. That's the twist. When a damaged coin also has a certified mint error or a rare die pairing, it becomes one of a kind. The damage tells a story, but the error gives it value. Now let's talk about that S mint mark. Coins from San Francisco in the 1930s were known for their die inconsistencies. Some 1937 S wheat pennies show what's called a repunched mint mark. The S was struck more than once, slightly off angle. When found on a coin with strong metal flow lines and visible doubling, collectors will pay thousands. One repunched mint-mark 1937 S penny, with scratches, mind you, sold for over $28,000 simply because of its rarity and character. Even in lower grades, a 1937 S with die cracks, rim clips, off-center strikes, or planchet flaws can bring in $1,000 to $5,000, depending on how bold the errors appear. And that's not counting the shock and awe sales when a rare variety pops up that no one's seen in years. Now let's say your 1937 S penny is just scratched and nothing else. Even then, the historical weight of a Depression-era San Francisco penny makes it worth holding on to. Many of these were used in rail yards, markets, and even passed between workers building the Golden Gate Bridge. This isn't just a coin, it's a physical piece of American grit. So don't let the scratches fool you. The ugliest wheat pennies often hide the most incredible surprises. And trust me, coin number 4, it takes the shock value to a whole new level. We're just getting warmed up. But before we go there, make sure to subscribe and turn on that bell so you never miss the next incredible discovery here at Quarter Dollar. Next up is a battered old soldier from the 1950s, the 1952 D. Lincoln Wheat Penny. This one's in rough shape. You can see the scuff marks, heavy discoloration, and even a few small corrosion spots eating into the rim. It looks like it spent decades inside a toolbox or maybe buried under floorboards in an old garage. Most people wouldn't think twice before tossing it into a Coinstar machine, and that's exactly why this coin is so dangerous. Because one just like it sold for over $490,000, and it didn't look much better than this. Struck at the Denver Mint, the 1952 D. Wheat Penny came out during a booming post-war economy, and nearly 746 million were minted. That's a huge number. But here's the thing. In large mintage years, the mint worked at full speed, and when machines are pushed to their limits, errors happen. Some small, some legendary. One of the most valuable errors tied to the 1952 D. Wheat Penny is the D over S mint mark. Yes, Denver over San Francisco. These rare over mint mark errors occurred when the mint mistakenly punched an S into the die, then corrected it with a D, leaving behind traces of both. It's one of the rarest and most sought-after varieties of the decade, and if you find one, even with deep scratches, corrosion, or wear, collectors will line up to pay insane prices. One such coin, worn and far from shiny, still fetched a mind-blowing $490,000 at auction because of the clarity of the overpunched mint mark. But that's not the only surprise 1952-D can hide. There are known double-die reverse varieties where the wheat stalks, 1 cent, and E pluribus unum show bold doubling. These are incredibly rare, and some were only discovered decades after minting. Combine that with a dramatic planchet crack, off-center strike, or a clipped planchet, and now we're talking once-in-a-lifetime finds. Even lower-tier errors like die chips in Lincoln's bow tie or a strong rim cud can push a worn 1952 D from pocket change to $2,500 or more. And the truth is, these errors don't care about condition. In fact, some of the most valuable finds were pulled from circulation already beat up, dirty, and ignored. And if you're lucky enough to find a 1952 D struck on a foreign planchet, and yes, that happened, you're entering the world of 5-figure sales. Some were struck on leftover blanks meant for other countries. They might be slightly underweight, off color, or have a strange sound when dropped. Those oddities are red flags for hidden gold, metaphorically speaking. The key is, don't let the damage fool you. This coin might look like it survived a fire, a flood, and a toolbox all in one lifetime. But if it carries the right mint error, it can still command the kind of money that changes everything. And nobody, not even veteran collectors, can spot it at a glance without checking the details. That's why coins like this one are so incredibly exciting. We're now 4 coins in, and the surprises are only getting bigger. Still with us? Good, because coin number 5 is an absolute heartstopper. If you haven't already, smash that subscribe button and stay locked in with Quarter Dollar, because what's coming next will blow your mind. Next up, and this one's a heartbreaker, a 1945 Lincoln Wheat Penny that looks like it barely survived time itself. The fonts are nearly invisible. Liberty is a ghost. The date is there, barely. The wheat stalks on the back, almost rubbed clean. The coin is completely worn down, the kind of piece you'd think was only good for scrap copper. But you'd be wrong, because under all that damage, this humble-looking penny could be hiding one of the rarest and most valuable mint errors ever discovered. One that turned a worthless penny into a $685,000 jackpot. Yes, $685,000 for a coin that looks like it came out of the bottom of a junk drawer. Let's rewind to 1945. America was still in the final stretch of World War II. Copper was precious. Steel had just been used in 1943, and 1944 to 46 saw the return to copper-based coins. But during this transitional phase, some shocking mint errors slipped through. One of them? The silver planchet strike. That's right. A handful of 1945 wheat pennies were accidentally struck on leftover planchets meant for silver mercury dimes. These were thinner, lighter blanks that never should have been used. But under pressure and speed, mistakes were made, and history was created. One of these silver-struck 1945 pennies, completely worn and barely legible, was authenticated, and its shocking error catapulted it into numismatic fame. The auction house expected a few thousand. It sold for $685,000. And here's the kicker. The faded details? That actually helped prove its authenticity. When a coin is struck on the wrong planchet, the design doesn't always strike fully. It creates a stretched, ghosted appearance, which is exactly what your coin looks like right now. But that's not all. Some 1945 wheat pennies were also struck off-center by up to 40%, or show signs of broad strike errors where the collar die failed. These mistakes can create huge, warped coins that collectors love. Even in horrible shape, some of these errors still fetch $12,000 to $20,000. And don't forget the famous no mintmark varieties, where coins were struck at Philadelphia but show subtle signs of reworked dies or misaligned punches. Some collectors specialize in hunting these faint anomalies. And when they find one with a deep enough error, they're ready to drop 5 figures, even if the coin's worn flat. Now let's be real. The 1945 penny is common in circulation. Millions were made, but very few were made wrong. And even fewer survived in the hands of someone smart enough to say, wait, this looks different. And that brings us right back to this coin. Fonts faded, design almost gone, but potentially one of the rarest transitional errors ever created. All it takes is a little curiosity, and maybe a trip to a third-party grader to unlock its true story. So next time you find a coin so damaged you almost throw it away, stop. Look again. Because even the ugliest penny might just be hiding a secret that could rewrite your financial future. 5 coins down, and the next one is pure madness. If you're loving this journey, do yourself a favor and subscribe now to Quarter Dollar. We're only halfway through, and trust me, the best is yet to come. Next up, we've got a coin that looks completely unremarkable, until you realize it might be one of the most dangerous traps in American coin collecting. The 1958 wheat penny, and this one's in bad condition. The surface is grimy, the edges are worn down, and the detail on Lincoln's face looks like it's been erased by time. It's the kind of coin most people would ignore, toss in a jar, or use in a penny press souvenir machine. But here's where the jaw drops. Because a coin just like this, same year, same bad shape, once sold for over $1.1 million. Yes, over $1 million for a wheat penny. Let's talk about why. The 1958 penny marked the final year of the wheat reverse design. After this, the Lincoln Memorial would appear starting in 1959. So right away, this was a farewell coin, the end of a 50-year design run. But in the midst of this final production, something happened. A very small number of 1958 wheat pennies, less than 5 are known, were struck with a bold doubled die on the obverse. And I'm not talking about light shadowing or subtle shifts. No, this is bold doubling. The word liberty looks doubled like it's been typed twice. In God We Trust looks shadowed. Even the date 1958 appears thick, layered, and unmistakable. The first example of this 1958 double die was discovered decades later in a forgotten roll of circulated wheat pennies. The coin was scratched, discolored, and partially worn. But once examined under magnification, the doubling was unmistakable. It sold privately for over $225,000. And another one, also circulated, worn down, and brown-toned, later made headlines when it reached $1.1 million at auction. Only 3 certified examples exist. That's how rare this error is. And here's what makes this coin even more of a collector's minefield: the counterfeits. Yes, this coin is so valuable. It's been counterfeited more than almost any wheat penny in existence. Some of those fakes even show up in online lots, estate sales, and coin shows. So how do you tell the difference? Genuine 1958 doubled die obverses have a very specific die marker: a tiny raised line near Lincoln's coat collar and certain die polish lines inside the B in Liberty. If your coin, even in terrible condition, shows bold doubling and these markers, get it graded immediately. You may be holding $1 million mistake. Now, even without the dramatic double die, some 1958 wheat pennies struck at the Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark, have appeared with unusual flaws. Examples include die cracks, strike-throughs, off-center strikes, and clipped planchets, especially on end-of-life dies nearing retirement. These flawed coins, even in circulated condition, can sell for $1,500 to $9,000 depending on the severity of the error and visual impact. So when we look back at this beat-up, tired old penny, the 1958 with fading features and rough surfaces, we're not looking at junk. We're looking at the final page of a historic design, and possibly the most valuable penny of the modern era hiding in plain sight. And now, the tension builds. Because what's coming next is a coin so rare, so dramatic, its value shocked even the auction house. If you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, now's the time. You're watching Quarter Dollar, and trust me, coin number 7 is about to turn the whole room silent. Next up, we've got a coin that's over a century old, the 1919 Lincoln Wheat Penny. And this one's seen everything. It's red-shaded from years of oxidation. Its surfaces are dulled and uneven, and the fine details are nearly wiped out. The rims are soft, the letters worn thin, and Lincoln himself looks like he's barely holding on. You'd be forgiven for thinking this penny had no life left in it. But beneath that red, ragged surface, this coin could be one of the most undervalued and misjudged treasures in all of numismatics. A red-shaded 1919 wheat penny in bad condition might look like something pulled out of a junk drawer, but if it carries one of several rare mint anomalies, its value can explode to over $475,000. Let's put this in perspective. The 1919 penny was minted in massive numbers, over 392 million in Philadelphia alone. It was a post-World War I era coin, used during a time of rebuilding, rationing, and transition. Copper quality varied, dies were reused longer than usual, and errors quietly slipped into circulation. This was not a polished, clean-cut period for the U.S. Mint. Now here's where it gets fascinating. Collectors have documented several known striking errors in the 1919 series, including misaligned dies, off-center strikes, and the rare but highly valuable double-die obverse, where Lincoln's portrait, date, or inscriptions show clear signs of doubling. Even in worn condition, one of these coins sold for over $145,000 because of bold doubling in God We Trust and the date, 1919, showing dramatic separation. But that's not the top end. A red-toned 1919 penny, confirmed to have been struck on a foreign bronze alloy, later traced to an experimental planchet mistake, stunned the collecting world when it crossed the auction block for $475,000. It wasn't shiny, it wasn't crisp. In fact, it looked like a coin you'd toss in your car's cup holder. But its color, weight, and dye diagnostics told a much deeper story. And that story made it one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever sold. And guess what? Red-shaded pennies from this era are often early signs of planchet contamination, where the metal mix was off due to leftover foreign blanks or improperly recycled scrap. These mistakes weren't obvious when the coins were new, but over time their strange toning and unpredictable color revealed their secrets. And it gets even more intense. Some 1919 wheat pennies are known to have rim breaks, die cracks, or raised lumps near Lincoln's shoulder, caused by die fatigue. These might look like simple wear to the untrained eye, but when authenticated, they can add thousands to the coin's value. Even without dramatic errors, a 1919 wheat penny with just enough color contrast, decent wear balance, and a visible date can sell for $1,200 to $2,800 in circulated grades. But if it's sitting on the right kind of misstruck planchet or has a doubled image, now you're talking life-changing money. So take a good look at this worn-down red-tinged coin. Most would call it junk, but to a seasoned collector it might be one of the greatest hidden gems of the early 20th century. 7 coins in, and we still haven't hit the craziest one yet. So if your jaw's dropped even once so far, go ahead and subscribe to Quarter Dollar. We're just 3 coins away from the one that could leave you speechless. Next up is a true survivor, the 1955 D Wheat Penny. And folks, this one looks like it's been through the ringer. The surface is chewed up, dented, and heavily discolored. Lincoln's face? Barely hanging on. The date? Fading fast. It's pitted, worn down, and downright ugly. The kind of penny most people would throw away without thinking twice. But don't make that mistake, because if this coin has the right flaw hiding beneath that destruction, it could still be worth over $650,000. Yes, even in a condition this rough. Let's break it down. The 1955 D penny was struck at the Denver Mint with a whopping 563 million coins produced. It was a year of mass output, and with that volume came a lot of mechanical stress, the perfect storm for errors. The Mint was pushing production hard, and it's in those high-pressure moments that history-changing mistakes were made. Now, most collectors are familiar with the famous 1955 doubled die, which came from the Philadelphia Mint. But very few know this. A rare 1955 D doubled die reverse also exists, and it's even harder to find. We're talking about doubled wheat stalks, distorted lettering on 1 cent, and shifting in e pluribus unum. It's subtle, hard to see, and almost always overlooked, especially on coins in bad condition. But that's the trap, because one of these error coins, badly worn and scratched, shocked the community when it sold for a jaw-dropping $658,000. The coin looked terrible. Collectors at the time called it a disaster. But when magnified, the doubling was clear, and the authentication sealed the deal. And that's not the only kind of 1955 D surprise out there. Some pennies from this year show die breaks, commonly called BIE errors. That's where a little metal lump appears between the letters B and E in Liberty, looking like a tiny I. Others have wild off-center strikes where parts of the design are missing entirely. There are even cases of 1955 D pennies being struck on foreign coin blanks, producing underweight or oddly colored coins. One such piece, struck on a silver dime planchet, was so worn that only a partial design remained. But once confirmed, it brought in $45,000. So here's the takeaway. Even a coin that looks like trash can hold historic value. If your 1955 D penny is in terrible shape, don't toss it. Look closely for any kind of doubling, odd spacing, die cracks, or anything that feels off. You might be looking at a 6-figure mistake, hiding behind a mask of damage. And let's not forget the emotional value. This is a coin born during a time when America was shifting gears. Post-Korean War, baby boom rising, industries booming. These coins passed through the hands of veterans, factory workers, and school kids buying penny candy. Each scratch tells part of that story. 8 coins down, and they're getting more intense by the second. Still watching? Then you're the kind of collector we love here at Quarter Dollar. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because coin number 9 is going to change the way you look at worthless coins forever. Next up is a coin that barely looks like a coin anymore. The 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny in very bad condition. This one's a mess. Lincoln's face is barely visible. The rim is weak and chewed up. Most of the text is ghosting away into the copper. It's the kind of penny you'd find stuck under an old floorboard or inside a rusted toolbox. But believe it or not, this pitiful little coin has made collectors stop in their tracks. Because one like this, damaged, discolored, and dismissed, once sold for an unbelievable $498,000. Let that sink in. Nearly $500,000 for a penny no one wanted. So how is this even possible? Let's rewind to 1946. America was fresh out of World War II. The mint had just come off of the 1943 steel cent experiment and returned to the copper alloy formula, 95% copper, 5% zinc. But here's where it gets strange. Some leftover wartime materials remained, and every now and then a few 1946 wheat pennies were mistakenly struck on the wrong foreign planchets. These planchets, the metal blanks, came from coins meant for allied nations under U.S. control. They were smaller, thinner, and had different alloy compositions. That's exactly what happened with one 1946 penny. It was struck on a 2.7-gram planchet intended for a Belgian coin. The result? A wheat penny that looked light, sounded off, and wore down strangely. It was extremely faded and barely recognizable. Yet, once authenticated, it brought in $498,000 at a major auction house. And this wasn't a one-time fluke. Some 1946 wheat pennies were also struck off center by 20 to 40%, with part of Lincoln's head missing and a huge blank crescent on one side. Even in horrible condition, those can pull $5,000 to $10,000, depending on how dramatic the strike is. Others show signs of clipped planchets, where a crescent-shaped chunk is missing from the rim, or die cracks that stretch like lightning bolts across Lincoln's face or coat. When found on coins in even decent condition, those varieties bring in thousands. When found on ultra-rare transitional planchets, the sky's the limit. Now let's talk color. The red and brown mix often found on these older coins, especially when uneven, can actually point toward copper impurities or oxidized errors. That deep red flaking look isn't just age, it could be a clue. In fact, some coin experts specifically search for unusually toned 1946 cents to investigate alloy issues. Even without a major error, a worn 1946 penny with rich red toning and full rim detail can sell for $400 to $1,000 simply because collectors love the post-war history of this particular date. And many of them pulled straight from circulation after decades of being ignored. So don't be fooled by this coin's condition. Just because it looks bad doesn't mean it's worthless. In fact, this is one of the biggest traps in the entire Wheat Penny series. Ugly, ordinary-looking coins hiding rare, mint-made miracles. 9 coins in. And we're not done yet. What comes next might just be the most surprising of all. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for $quarter and stick with us as we reveal the final coin. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. And finally, we come to the last coin on our list, a true war-era relic. The 1944 S. Lincoln Wheat Penny, and this one looks like it's been buried underground for decades. The surface is deeply pitted, riddled with tiny corrosion craters. Lincoln's profile is fading fast, the letters are melting into the metal, and the wheat stalks on the back? Barely there. To most people, it looks like a ruined coin. Maybe something scraped out of an old engine block or found in the dirt with a metal detector. But this damaged old cent? It could be worth up to $743,000 if it hides one of the rarest and most mysterious errors in U.S. mint history. Let's go back in time to 1944. The war had just ended. In 1943, the U.S. Mint famously produced pennies made of steel coated in zinc due to copper shortages during World War II. But in 1944, they switched back to copper planchets made from recycled shell casings. These brass-based blanks were used specifically for 1 year. And that's where the story takes a wild turn. Somewhere along the line, a few leftover steel planchets from 1943 were accidentally used in 1944, including at the San Francisco Mint. That means there are a few 1944 S pennies out there, like this one, that were struck in steel instead of brass, and most of them look terrible today due to oxidation. That heavy pitting, you see? It's not just damage. It could be a clue. A coin like this, worn, rough, and ugly, was pulled out of a junk box at a flea market. It was magnetic, oddly light, and covered in rusted pits. A collector almost passed it up, but something didn't feel right. He tested it. Then he sent it in for grading. The result? Genuine 1944 S steel cent authenticated. And just like that, a coin once mistaken for trash was sold for a staggering $743,000. And that's not the only shocker tied to the 1944 S penny. Some coins from this year show what's called a repunched mint mark, where the S was stamped more than once, slightly off. These are especially hard to spot on heavily pitted coins, but if you know what to look for and use a coin loop, you might catch a faint second curve on the mint mark. One repunched 1944 S penny sold for $32,000, even with moderate wear. Others were struck off-center or on foreign coin blanks, creating coins with unusual color, weight, and dimension. One 1944 S penny struck on a blank meant for a Mexican 20 centavos coin fetched $18,000 despite being scratched and faded. And let's talk collector hunger. The 1944 S is a favorite among serious wheat penny hunters, especially those chasing the legendary steel transition errors. Even non-error coins in poor shape can bring in $600 to $1,500 if they show signs of historical wartime alloy anomalies, odd die wear, or dramatic planchet flaws. So while this last coin might look like it belongs in the trash, it's actually one of the most highly desired mystery coins in circulation, a coin that proves, without a doubt, that condition isn't everything, and that some of the ugliest coins in your collection might just be your most valuable. 10 coins, all in terrible condition, all potentially worth tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is the power of hidden rarity. This is the magic of mint mistakes. And this is why you never ever overlook an old wheat penny again. If this video opened your eyes, drop a like and make sure you're subscribed to Quarter Dollar, because this is just the beginning. There are still coins out there hiding in boxes, drawers, and coffee cans, waiting to change someone's life, maybe yours.